Good.
There we go.
Hold on just a moment. Yes, looks good. Thank you.
Everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready when you are.
All right, thanks for everybody being patient. Tonight we're going to discuss an officer-involved shooting that occurred in the 6800 block of Shadywood. With me tonight I have the Assistant City Manager Ray Ariano, District Attorney Margaret Moore, and the Police Monitor Farrah Muscadine. So tonight at 7:37 APD was dispatched to a grass fire to assist AFD. While officers were en route to the call was updated that there was a man in the street with a handgun. When officers did arrive about 3 minutes later at 7:40, officers continued to get updates from citizens that were there on scene that the subject was pointing the weapon at bystanders in the neighborhood, as well as pointing the weapon to himself. Officers at that time decided that they would wait for additional officers to arrive to create response teams. In order to create the response teams we wanted to make sure that there were officers with shields, with less lethal options, and other options so we could de-escalate the situation that occurred tonight. About 17 minutes later, the officers started to approach in the response teams with shields, giving the subject commands. The subject continued to point the weapon at bystanders. There was actually bystanders in one of the yards that was actually trying to talk to the subject in the middle of the roadway. He continued to point the weapon at the subjects that were in the yard, as well as pointing it to himself. As officers approached and was giving commands to the subject to drop the weapon, as well as asking the bystanders to go into their residence, the subject then turned the weapon towards the officers, and 2 officers fired their weapons. The subject was struck. The subject went down. The officers, because they were already in a position to where they had their shields, was able to immediately get up to the subject to administer first aid. The subject was then transported to South Austin Medical to where he was treated. At this point, the subject, although he was struck more than once, 1 to 3 times that we're aware of, that he was treated at the hospital and he is in stable condition at this time. We had 2 officers that shot. That one is a 3-year officer and one is a 9-year officer with our department. As in normal protocol, those officers will be placed on administrative leave. Also, we'll conduct a criminal investigation with our Special Investigations Unit, as well as with the District Attorney's Office. We'll also conduct a internal affairs investigation with oversight from the Police Monitor's Office. So at this time, I'll open it up to questions.
Can you kind of explain, just so we understand, it's not 2 separate scenes, because I know it was Shadywood and then it was also Bill Hughes that were kind of blocked off. Kind of explain like what was going on in each one.
Well, actually what you saw is that the incident did happen in the 6800 block of Shadywood.
Okay.
Is the officers, when they were arriving to the scene, they were continually getting updates. So the officers did not want to go all the way up to the particular street. So they staged at that particular location. When they got enough officers, that's when they actually approached on foot and approached the suspect, giving the suspect commands at that time.
And was there any family members of this man at the scene?
We do believe at this time that a couple of the bystanders in the yard were family members trying to talk to the subject.
And the gun that he had, did you guys determine if it was real or not?
At this point, the gun has not been recovered. It's still on scene, but we believe that it was over the air. It was described as a black handgun.
So did the man and his family live on the Shadywood Lane? Is that why they were there, or was he visiting? What was going on?
We do believe that the suspect lived on the block there.
was the grass fire related to him? Was the grass fire in his yard?
We do believe that he was potentially trying to start a fire there outside the residence, and that is why folks there called the police to actually stop that behavior.
Could you recap one more time how this incident started?
APD actually received a call to assist the fire department, and at that point we started receiving multiple updates on the call, and through the updates that is when they said a man had come out into the middle of the street and had a firearm. The subject then was pointing it at bystanders that now we know are other family members as well as other neighbors, and then eventually when the officers were approaching in an effort to try to de-escalate the situation, that is when he pointed the weapon at the officers, and we had 2 officers fire their weapon.
And you said he was in stable condition. Are his injuries expected to be possibly life-threatening?
We do not believe so.
Could you talk to us a little bit about the de-escalation tactics? Just kind of walk us through the steps that they take and, what they're trained to do and what they did tonight.
Well, tonight there was actually 2 crisis intervention team officers that were with the response teams. They talk and try to get the subject to comply with their orders. As I said, the teams were approaching, and quickly within a minute of their approaching is when the subject did turn their weapon on the officers and they had to fire.
Is this man expected to be charged with something?
At this point, we're still collecting statements from all the witnesses and the officers, and we'll make that determination later, and we'll update you at that time.
Can you give us an average age range?
Sorry, the subject was a Hispanic male, 41 years of age.
Okay, last question.
Is it correct to say that these 2 officers both shot this man?
At this point, we do not have that information.
Do you think at least one of the officers shot this man?
We do know that the shots fired by the officers did strike the subject, yes.
Did you mention if he was on drugs or alcohol?
We don't have that information at this time. So thank you guys, I really appreciate it, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
I'll let y'all get your stuff here. Go ahead.